Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Top Podcast. This week we will be discussing Alien Romulus. As a quick aside, this movie is rated R, so if you are a young, which is to say under 18, please pause the video and seek parental guidance before continuing. If you are above 18, please be aware that, as always with the Alien movies, we will be discussing some pretty heavy subject matter, so viewer discretion is advised. My name is Michael. I'm one of your hosts, joined as always by my good buddy Dan.
Buenas tardes.
And Hot Kyle.
Game over, man!
I thought that was the soundboard for a second. I'm impressed. That was good.
Spot on.
And,
I've been working on my Bill Paxton impression.
It's an excellent use of time, really. Like, you'll never regret working on your Bill Paxton impression.
So I can just yell it in situations where I'm uncomfortable.
Kyle's the feminist of the week. He's like, why don't you put her in charge? But this week, for the icebreaker question, I want to know if you're sitting down for your own personal enjoyment to watch a run of Alien movies, which movies are you going to keep? Which movies are you going to cut? And in what order are you going to view them? Anybody want?
Put a lot of thought in.
Okay.
I put a lot of thought into this one. I'm gonna be honest with this one. I'd start with Prometheus and Covenant.
Okay.
Roll into Alien.
Mm-hmm.
Romulus in the middle. Alien. So we're still sticking chronologically. And I just wouldn't do 3 and 4. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. Like, I just really thought about it. I'm like, you know what? I feel like this is conclusive enough, and I don't like what happened in 3 and 4 enough that I'm like, you know what? Whoever's watching with me, that's the end.
Yeah, right. I feel you. I have a very similar list, but I assume Kyle's going to be differing. So what do you got?
Mine's extremely different, yes. Okay, I am going to start with 1, jump right into 2.
Okay.
Then go to Alien Romulus for the modern, like, spice. And then I think I'm going to cap it off with Resurrection and not touch any of the rest.
Okay.
Oh.
Not going to bother you that you don't have the transition piece?
From, what do you mean?
Oh, I mean, you miss a huge plot point in Ripley dying, but also, like, I understand why you do that.
Whatever, y'all get the idea.
Yeah, exactly. You're like, all right, she died off screen like the rest of them, and she's back.
Yeah. And it's even like, there's a Prometheus connection in Romulus, but they explain it in the movie. You don't need to see Prometheus to understand it. So it's like, just for movie watching sake, I think my priorities are, it's almost, yes, you have Ripley and, these other characters, but it's almost more of an exploration of the xenomorph in its many forms. I think that's what I'd prioritize in my view through.
I feel that. I have spent so much time on this. My the number 2 guy in my department, like the second highest ranking guy, and I talked for a while. He's watching through them with his son, and he's going chronologically. And at first I was like, I don't like it. But after these rewatches, I think, just like Dan, I would start for myself with Prometheus and Covenant. And I think, especially if it had been a long time since I did a watch, I think some of the things that annoyed me about Prometheus and Covenant wouldn't be as present. And then I would go Aliens, Romulus last. And nice. I'm right there with Dan that 3 and 4 can just get shot out of the air, the space ducks. Yeah, we don't need them. Shoot them with a harpoon on the way out. They can go. Enjoyable enough films. They're not going to ruin my day, but if I'm doing it for myself, I'm probably not going to. For my ideal watch, I'm good.
Wow, it's very interesting that we have a clear divide between you guys being such big fans of Covenant and me not wanting any part of it, and me loving Resurrection and you guys not wanting any part of it. There's a big divide there. I like it.
Yeah, it's. I think most of us can agree. 3 is. I think Dan had. Did you have 3 over 4?
Yeah, I did have 3 over 4.
Well, we can all agree that 3 is no good, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
agreed. Well, but let's talk about Romulus.
Let's talk about Romulus.
Amazing movie. Can we just say I was blown away? Like, that was a perfect modern day Alien adaptation. That crossed every box. It was awesome. It was scary. I loved it. What did you guys think?
I loved it a lot. Echoing what you say on the modern take, but at the same time, I like that they took the time to recreate the feel of the old movies. Like, I'm watching that opening scene, and the music, something about the way it was shot. Like, it's still modern, but I can still look at it and think, okay, this is Alien. Like, I know this is Alien. I didn't quite get that same feeling when watching Prometheus. That felt more like a true like modern film. But like overall, like, I'm still blown away watching this for the third time now, and I think my fourth time I'm probably gonna feel the same way.
Yeah, I think it's. I think you got to be a contrarian for this not to be a top 3 Alien movie. I think the public eye consensus is that it's the third best Alien movie, and we'll get into our personal opinions about that at the end, as always. But yeah, I loved that we go back to dingy space derelict. I love that. I love the deepening of the lore of the company and what it's like to be this trapped grunt, working class, just like it's borderline chattel slavery that they're doing there.
Yes. Well, I admire. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
go for it.
Like, I just admire that, watching the first movie, the first movie really introduces a lot of these ideas of corporate greed and how the aliens function and all sorts of things. And this movie takes kind of all of those ideas and expands on it in so many ways. That, like you said, it is slavery, right? To be stuck in this like corporate trap where you have to work on the planet if you're there, and you can't even leave unless you have enough money. But the money that it takes keeps changing. Like, that kind of like financial corporate trap is terrifying. But then beyond that, like, I feel like this movie took all these, there was a familiarity about it. We know about facehuggers. We know about the acid for blood. Like, we already know these things, but they were presented to us in such a new and visceral and aggressive way that it just it felt like it was honoring the first movie while expanding on it in the perfect, in the perfect ratio to like making it new, yet keeping it familiar.
100%. Thematically, it played well for, I think, the first time in a long time. So Romulus is, of course, a reference to Romulus and Remus, which they make no secret of in the movie. Two very famous historical brothers. But then there's 3 pairs of different abnormal siblings as our main cast, right? You got Rain and Andy, who are obvious. She refers to him as his brother, even though he's an android that her dad just pulled out of the scrap heap. And then you have, oh gosh, I don't know their names. The pregnant girl and wannabe soldier boy are siblings. And then I don't know if it's in like supplemental material or what, like how people have come to this conclusion, but apparently Navarro, the bald girl, and I want to say Bjorn, the asshole, are at some level adopted siblings as well. And so you have
a couple.
I did too, but what my research would indicate is that everybody is paired up in a sibling pairing.
Dang.
I did not catch that.
I didn't catch it either. I also was of the opinion that they were a couple. But I don't know. I could be. Also, I'm trusting what the internet tells me. So,
Well, my only problem with that is that I wonder if the bald girl should have shared some of the hatred for android sentiment that the asshole did, because that was so core to like his character, right? Like,
right.
He's popping off about hating androids because of what happened to his mom, and she didn't really have any moments like that. Like, if that is the case, I feel like the movie doesn't necessarily illustrate that clearly.
Yeah, and again, I could be wrong. The internet is a wildly trustworthy place, as we all know. So, grain of salt.
Why is it called Romulus, though? Is there some kind of significance to Romulus's part in that story? Like, what is the reason for that name? I
think it ties into, so the last 3 release date, the last 3 Alien movies have all been by the name of the ship that everything takes place on.
Sure.
So it takes place on, because it takes place on Renaissance Station, but Romulus is the side that it happens on. I'm not up to date on my Roman mythology enough to tell you with any kind of certainty which how Romulus played in as opposed to Remus, and if I don't know, the significance. Probably should have done that bit of research sometime in the last week, but it didn't even cross my mind until now.
Probably something clever in there.
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure with the insane amount of detail and research that Freddy Alvarez did for this movie. Is it like Freddy? Am I white guying this? Speedy. Yeah. Okay. I am. Yeah. Okay. Dan knows. But yeah, just the amount of there are things from the comic books, I guess, that actually get referenced in this movie. The level of detail that he went into to just write a love letter to the fans it went beyond anything I even recognized, because I love the idea of the comic books, but I just don't have time or eyesight enough to read comic books. And so they're just forever not a part of the medium I'm going to be able to appreciate for myself. But yeah, just that level of detail he did was amazing. And so I'm sure Romulus is... This is how hard we're going to glaze this movie, if you haven't figured it out, is that even if we don't know, we're going to assume it was brilliant. So let's get to something concrete.
Well, I do want to say, can we all agree this was the scariest one that we've watched in this series?
Hands down.
Yes.
This movie was horror. It was gross. It was very visceral. I feel like they completely revamped how facehuggers are presented. I mean, even the design, them moving like tarantulas, like giant spiders, was awesome. They even they almost had, it looks like they had black designs on their legs. I feel like they changed the aesthetic a bit of them. Plus you're seeing a lot more of that, the little tentacle thing coming out of it, trying to get into your mouth.
Man, I don't know what you're working with, but I would not refer to that thing as little.
But it's with us acknowledging that the alien, the process of impregnating you is supposed to be very invasive and very rapey. To know that is the thing that goes down your throat is so just gross and awful. And I think this is the first movie where we've seen someone get face hugged before the eyes of everybody else in the group. They just watch her deal with this thing on her face. And then the xenomorphs themselves, I like that we still got a more sneaky xenomorph. It wasn't too out in the open, that weird cocoon thing that it was in. We had a lot more sneaky xenomorphs in the beginning, and obviously it led to them being much more out in the open. But you still had this slow buildup of tension that when it hit was gory and awesome and scary. I mean, it's also the first time we've seen an alien I loved that they were using their tails to stab somebody and then carry them away. They weren't just grabbing them and kidnapping them. They'd impale them and then drag them off to where they wanted them. And geez, that's not even to mention what do we call the monster at the ends? The giant human thing?
The Offspring.
The Offspring. Oh, what a horrifying, nightmare fuel creature. That thing was so scary. I watched this with my roommate Eli, and he'd never seen it before. And for days afterward, he just kept being that thing was so scary. He's like, that thing really messed me up.
Honestly,
he was haunted by it.
We all three of us watched that together for the first time in IMAX, and I just remember that scene where it's a very quiet shot, and it just pans over, and he's just standing in the hallway, or not even standing, he was crouching, and I just remember the feeling in the theater of just silence and being like, "What the fuck am I looking at right now?"
It was. My adrenaline didn't go down after seeing it in IMAX for a good 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah.
I was on edge longer than the runtime of the movie after the movie. Now, it didn't help that Kyle and I had a project we were working on, and we had to stop by, was it Michael's?
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
We go to this
Michael's.
Terrifying. I think Michael's was in the process of closing or something for good, because it was every other light was off, so it just was.
It was half lit.
It was when your phone is too dim, you just had it on full brightness, and you're it's gonna kill my battery, and you slide it down, and it's I gotta squint for a little bit, but in real life, and nobody was there. The music was fuzzy. There was just one older lady standing behind the cash register, and I was like, this is it, man. This is where I die. and so that didn't help. But like
Our
normally,
had not dropped, and we had walked into an apocalyptic scene. That was so scary.
Yeah. But like I think normally I'd have been like, oh, Michael's is just a dim place, whatever. But because we had just watched that movie, I was like, all right, well, the first 29, 30 years were good, but guess that's all I get. Like,
game over, man.
Game over, man.
Did you guys also catch? I didn't notice this the first time we watched it, but that the mother of the offspring starts like essentially, it looks like she was lactating the black goo.
Yes, yeah, I didn't catch the first time either.
Under her shirt, pulling that up, and then after she's dead, I think the offspring is nursing. I think it's drinking up that lactation like from her dead body, which is just it's like so disgusting and so like violating. It's like almost freaky to think about. Oh, and it just like that, you know, it's the last thing you expected in an Alien movie. They took it in such a drastically new direction, but I think it worked so well.
It was incredible. Like, I think it was everything I wanted the newborn to be. I think the offspring just delivered for me.
It's the creature from Alien Resurrection.
Yeah, outside of like a massive like on the planet final battle that you know we'll never get and will always make me sad. Like if it had to be on a ship, I felt like this just delivered. Whereas with Ripley and the newborn, I was like, or the offspring, I don't know. Ripley and the one in Alien 4, I was just like, this was okay. And then this one was just one of the scariest things I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, I do gotta say, the scene where it's bursting out of Homegirl's chest, the bald girl, while the ship is flying around.
Oh my gosh.
Was like, it was peak cinema, man. The music was crazy and there's so much tension watching that ship fly around while like, you know, the chest burster's coming out and the pregnant girl has no idea what's going on. She's been asleep. She's none the wiser. So all of this, like, it was one of the most horrifying combination of elements we've seen in the entire franchise. And it was just so good.
And just, like the practical effects of the chest, like the fact that they're still doing practical effects or doing them again, I love it. I love it so much. Yeah. When we went to go see Alien in the theater at Redford Theater, I was there with one of my uncles, and he leans over and he goes, "It's incredible that they did all of this without computers and green screens. They just had to do it all themselves." And like at the time I was like, yeah, no, that is like, it is incredible, but like, come on, man, like it's okay that they use computers. But then I just felt something die in me when I was watching Alien Romulus, and I was like, this is so amazing, but it does like lessen it a little bit that they did it all with computers. And then I did my research and I was like, this movie was dripping with practical effects, and like,
oh yeah,
they didn't need to do that, but I love that they did, and I love how well they did it.
The one that stands out to me is the xenomorph. Like, we have another guy in a suit for this one, right? I swear it has to be. Because, like, there's that scene at the very end with Andy on the ground, and he's just standing over him, and he's got his arms hunched up. And there's something about that energy that's unsettling. I'm like, well done.
Yeah.
Well done, honestly.
Yeah.
Well, and so speaking of all the practical, like, you know, the effects and stuff, the set design was absolutely bonkers. They had so many like big, well-detailed sets throughout this movie. And I love that it matched the iconic style of the first movie. You know, we've had a lot of deviations from that in other entries in the franchise, but this one recaptured what the first movie feels like, but then exploded tenfold with how Romulus as a station just like looked through and through. It felt so true to the source material. And it seemed all practical. Or was amazing effects, but it really seemed like they built a lot of real sets that they were using for this whole thing. And I thought the use of them was really smart. There was times where, because, you know, as a movie maker, I'm paying attention to the tricks that work. And you have, you know, the main group of 3 goes through the ship and then gets trapped, you know, in the room where all the facehuggers are coming out, which is a horrifying scene. But then also you then have, once the other 2 come out to like save them, Rain and the bald girl, you get to reuse all those sets a second time, but then you get to do it differently because they're interacting with the android and stuff. But so it really felt like they had built a massive selection of rooms and just capitalized on using every single one of them. As a movie maker, yeah, all the practical stuff, it was absolutely awesome. I am very curious as to how practical versus impractical the aliens themselves were. There was one that was like translucent. It was kind of like our main alien bad. Yeah, I mean, I don't. It was like a cool new effect. When it's first birthed out of that freaky pod thing, it stands up and the light is almost shining through its head. It's fucking beautiful. But so did you guys catch that? So the asshole character sticks the taser into the hole and shocks the shit out of this xenomorph.
Yep.
It doesn't die, which is crazy, but throughout the other scenes where it appears, there is an electrical current that is sparking in its body. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
No way.
If you
Yeah,
look
I
closely,
did. I caught that in one frame, and I thought I just imagined it. But now that you're saying this, I'm like, okay, cool.
it didn't die, and it almost had like an electrical current running through it for the rest of the movie.
That is such a good touch. I love that.
Yeah, because it also allows you to personalize like one of the aliens, right? Like this is the alien that was birthed out of one of our main characters. So now it has that personal touch of being the one that is sparking. And so you recognize it every time it shows up.
That's amazing. I did not know that. I love that. Also, let's just that the acid scene was incredible. Just the way it just like and just like melts him down. Like, oh my gosh! And you're like, you want to be like, get up and run, but like,
but it's melting his hand.
Yeah. Oh. And then just
right to the bone.
The slow horror of the pregnant girl's like one of the only two names I can't remember. It bothers me so much. But like the pregnant girl, Kay, thank you. Like her watching it happen and trying to get out as it's like birthing out of the vagina chrysalis, like, oh my gosh. Just
very vagina-esque.
Yeah.
It was so gross. And it's funny because we've been talking about all this imagery they put in the movies that either looks phallic or yonic, and that was very vagina-esque. Yeah, Mike, I want you to take a timestamp right now through whatever the time is in the podcast, because you might want to censor what I'm about to say. You got a timestamp?
Yeah.
I just need to come clean about this because I may or may not have been having consensual sexual relations with the love of my life, and may have at one moment saw something. I may have thought of that scene from Alien because of that freaky, nasty pod looking thing. And it really ruined the experience for me. It really ruins. I was out of it, and I was just thinking about how nasty that movie is. And then all of a sudden, I'm just like thinking about chest bursters, and like now everything we're doing just seems really gross. Like this is the only time in my life I have ever thought of a movie in that capacity while having those kind of relations. And I applaud the director for that, but I'm kind of pissed. Like, it was so viscerally disgusting that it came back to me at all the wrong moments and really ruined my good time.
I'm really glad I took a timestamp because I think a nice clip of that to put right at the front will really help with viewer retention.
Look, you use it as you wish. I'm not embarrassed by it. I just didn't know if any of your...
Hey, man, we put a content warning on these for a reason.
We did. If you want me to say consensual post-marital sex, I can do that as well. If it'll clean things up.
Nah, it is what it is.
Like, look, that happened, and I also was like, I gotta tell the guys.
I mean, look, the only person we actually started cleaning our act up for is Rob's mom, because she listens to every episode. But Rob's mom told me straight up that she's not listening to the alien ones, and I was like, hey, that's okay. I don't need you to. These are for me.
Good.
And so we can be a little more unhinged.
Okay, cool. Then let me repeat that. I was having sex and I thought an alien was going to come out of my girlfrine's vagina. Okay, that's what happened. All right,
clip that for social right there. That's the one.
Oh yeah. I do also want to point out, as far as like sexual imagery, when they're boarding the ship and that little hole pops up. Mm-hmm. I literally, like, Kayleen, my girl, was like, it looks like a butthole. I was like, yep, they are now entering the sphincter of the ship.
There's also Andy unlocking it with his finger, and he's like,
getting
in there.
And the guy says, you just popped your cherry. Like, and so that was also sexual. Yes, he's literally fingering the ship everywhere he goes.
Whew. All right, let's talk about Andy then.
Let's talk about Andy. Let's talk about Andy fingering the ship and other things.
Andy, I think, is one of the great characters in the series, and also just like in a series with nothing but awesome androids. He's got to be a top 2. I don't know if I could pick between him and David for which android I like the best.
I have to agree. The biggest thing for me is like, I don't know if you guys like notice as much, but his facial expressions are like really freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually watching this one with my mom, and there was a point where she asked, "Is this guy an animatronic or is he an actual actor? Like, is this CGI?" I'm like, "No, that's a real dude." I'm like, he can just keep his face that still. Like,
this is incredible.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Even in the background, you'll catch him in the background of shots, and he literally is acting like a broken animatronic. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. But then he goes through this whole change, and you instantly can see from his face and his passion and everything that it is not the same Andy at all. And I like that you almost get 3 different variations of this character who is like being who evolves and is toyed with, and then is kind of brought back to an earlier state. Like, what an engaging performance all around. Ultimately, the best character in the movie by far.
Yeah, no question. And one of the things I love about Andy is that I think this movie, it was, I don't know if it was intentional or not, but the way that Scream kind of like held a mirror up to the horror landscape in the late 90s or whenever Scream came out. I don't have that to hand, but I think Andy holds a mirror up to the viewer in a way where, like, when you're watching a horror movie and they're like about to open the door to let him in, you're like, no, don't open the door. It's gonna get in. You're all gonna die. And then when Andy won't open the door and just lets Kay get taken by the alien, you're like, what is wrong with you? But, like, that's what we always scream at the movie. Like, he's just doing what we tell them to do, and we kind of hate him for it. And I love that.
It's a super interesting point, too, to think about, because, like, we established pretty early on that the androids are programmed not to harm humans, right? We actually have 2 points in the movie where we see where the android is presented with a choice where they have to make a choice that will harm a human, but it has the deductive reasoning to find which one is going to cause the least amount of damage to human life. We have Bjorn's mom.
She got trolley sacrificed
for. Sorry?
She got trolley problemed.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. It was, what, 3 minors for a dozen?
Yeah.
And then Andy is pretty much presented with the same situation. It's like, okay, I can save Kay, or I can save 3 people in this room, and then, yeah.
Well, and
really interesting how they delve into that.
Well, and even then, like, I don't even think he could have, like, the reasoning is that he couldn't have saved Kay. I think his thought was, if I let Kay in, I let the xenomorph in. It gets in with her, and then it gets Kay anyway. So, like, it's cold, it's heartless, but it's what it changed nothing.
Yeah. I guess to rephrase, attempt to save Kay. I mean, at the end of the day, you're right. There's no way.
But that's
the speed this thing moves. Like,
that's that human element that it plays with, though, is that we all think you're choosing not to save Kay when in actuality you weren't. Like, but you can't help but feel it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So I like the 2 sides of this coin, and that, it's awesome that Andy, you have the android from the first movie, who it's just the same model, not the same exact
model. Yeah. His name is Rook. The original's is Ash.
Okay. So I like this almost like passing of the baton where he's like, listen, you need to be the voice of reason. Like, I like that you need a stance of logic in these like heavily emotional situations, and in that sense, it is going to save more lives to keep the door closed and not let this alien burst in and potentially kill all of us. Like, you do need somebody to be thinking like that. But at the same time, I think with the programming of these robots, the company just sees humans as a blank workforce, and they want to keep them alive so they can get more work done, but they don't care about their emotional state. Like, and that wouldn't be programmed in. It's preservation of their property in a sense. And so I do like that, but from a horror landscape, like, I think you want a voice of reason that is going to make the smarter choice to get more people out of there, even if it's going to be making the harder choice sometimes.
Yeah, and even Rook was so good in that even when he's helping them back to the ship, he's helping them back to the ship with the expectation that they're going to go back to the planet. Mm-hmm. Which, the eternal question of Alien is, which is worse, the alien or the company? And it's like, well, you're getting away from one to get back to the other. Now, I love that it was as simple as turning autopilot back off and her being like, all right, sorry.
Yeah, I do gotta say, Rook's face did not look good. Come on, guys.
It looked better than it did in the theater. I don't know if you remember
Everything
that.
else looked great. It's because you're blind, Michael.
No, they touched him up.
You still got to see it.
When I was in the theater, it looked like they just like spliced the footage out of 1979 and put it on the screen. It looked better. It didn't look good, but they definitely cleaned it up.
Just built a freaking animatronic like at that point, because frick's sake that. But that also being said, I liked seeing, we have an android that clearly has emotions in his own way, but those emotions, like as he keeps getting these updates, they evolve and they change. I like how willing to sacrifice himself he is for Rain in the beginning, and then once he kind of evolves, he's almost kind of bitter about the fact that they were going to leave him. I love that line where she's like, "How could you do that?" And he's like, "What? Leave someone behind?"
Such a good line.
Such a good line.
I would say it's one of my top 2 lines of the movie.
Yes, one of the best in the franchise. So to turn it around on her like that. But I really like that despite his emotions, he seems to be driven by his his operative. What's it called?
Prime directive.
Directive. Yep.
The directive. Thank you. He's still driven by whatever his main directive is. So yes, he's an android. Yes, he feels in some capacity, but also like his only motivation is what his directive is. And I loved that, it was like an evolution of the androids. I kind of want to talk about where you guys think Andy compares to all the other androids in the franchise, because truly, androids are as deep a part of this series as basically the xenomorph is. We've had whole movies without a xenomorph. Have we had any without an android? Maybe
we have not.
That's not the point.
I mean, 3, you could try to make the case for it. You technically get the Bishop head scene.
Yeah.
More or less, 3 is without, but 3 is near unanimously on this podcast considered the worst movie. So
yes,
everyone thinks it's either the worst or the second worst Alien movie, and it's the one without any substantial time with a working alien, or excuse me, synthetic person.
So as far as storytelling goes, as far as character, like how would you guys rank the different androids?
I mean, for me,
really...
Go ahead, Dan.
You can go ahead. That one's actually a really tough one. Give me a minute to think about it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
For me, it's Andy and David, well ahead of the rest, and then Rook and Ash. Maybe not well ahead. I think it's Andy and David, and then Rook and Ash are my clear top tier, second tier, which just leaves Winona Ryder, who was excellent. Sorry, Bishop and Rook. And then I would just Ash I wouldn't really count as like an android that I'd rank. Like he feels like an NA to me. Cuz ultimately he is a callback to Ash. So yeah, I'd have Ash and Bishop, as my tier 2. And then I don't know, put Rook in there with an asterisk. And then in tier 3, I have Winona Ryder, who it was still a fantastic character in her own right. And I would have loved more time with her. But I think ultimately for me, 4 is a less impactful movie. And so she just kind of loses credit for being in the less impactful movie for me. What about you, Kyle? I would be interested to see specifically where she ranks.
Where are you going? Where are you going with Walter? In this
Walter, dude. I would put Walter in the same tier as Winona Ryder, but I would move him. Like if it were a tier list, he'd be higher up the tier that they're in.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. So ultimately, as far as your tier system goes, I agree wholeheartedly. I think Andy gives the best performance, but I think David is a more impactful android. I think he's got more story to tell. So I'd go David. I didn't go Andy. I'm a big softie for Bishop because he just like his directive is to freaking help, and he does that like completely earnestly. Then I jump to the guy from the first one, Ash. And then you like Winona Ryder is I like that Winona Ryder stands for the only movement we've seen that is actually towards helping people and being good. I like that she stands for that, but overall as a character, she doesn't add much to like the android mythos. Except for the fact that she exists. She was made by other androids. Like that's all cool and stuff, but we don't necessarily get to like see that play out as deeply as all these other characters have these like crazy synthetic focused arcs. And I think Walter's at the bottom. I think he's fine, but he's also just boring.
Yeah, he's more there to be a foil for David than anything else.
That's what I'm saying. He's the counterpart. He's the opposite side of the same coin. He's just there to finger or blow while David fingers.
I don't know, guys. I kind of have to disagree. Like David and Andy, that's a really tough one to split. But David takes Andy just by a hair, I think. Andy's performances, like Kyle were saying, were great, but as a character, David just really hard to top here. He also had 2 movies to work with, something Andy didn't have. Bishop comes in 3rd for me. I put Walter in 4th. I'm gonna be honest, guys.
Okay.
And that's only because of the dichotomy that he forms with David. So I don't know if that's actually a fair way of rating that, but. Then goes Ash, then goes Call for me.
Okay. I like it. I think for me, what makes Andy so high is that the way he reflects on a meta level. I think that bumps him up a lot. Not that he's not an incredible character, and he's so well acted. There's just, I feel like this movie just is the one where we're just gonna rank everything because it's the last one.
Yes.
And I don't know. I could sit here and just babble back and forth, convincing myself David and Andy just one after the other, and I just don't know. I don't know. I can't pick.
Okay, I got some fun references I'd like to call out.
Real quick, sorry. Before we move on, I just wanted to say something that so we established that this is the alien from the first movie, right?
The alien that is like
the one that died.
Yeah, that is Big Chat.
Yes.
Which
yeah,
what a weird name, by the way.
I kind of like it. It adds character, but I just thought it was really freaking funny that this alien was on the Nostromo, saw Ash, got sent out into space, got pulled back into another ship, and then sees a dude that looks exactly like Ash, and he's like, "What the f? I thought this dude died." That would be pretty disorienting.
I don't know that he ever did see Ash. Ash is one of the only characters who dies not from the alien.
That's a fair point. I don't think they ever did run into each other. I guess I just assumed they did, but you might be right.
I mean, it depends on if he remembers being a chest burster or not, I guess.
Yeah. That would have been funny either way, but continue, Kyle.
I mean, well, also, do we know where the story of what happens on the Romulus before we get there exists? Because don't get me wrong, I like that we are getting there in the aftermath. I think that's really good for a setting. But there's a whole freaking adventure that went down on that ship.
That
would have been an awesome video game or something.
I think it's comic books that cover that.
Yes.
Their media does exist and can be sought out. I couldn't tell you definitively what it was. I want to say comics, though.
Okay. Okay, so I do want to call out some references to other movies that I thought were cool. Towards the end, I believe it's like indoor sprinklers that go off because of like a fire alarm, and it causes rain to come down from the ceiling. And there's this just like shot where it's far away and you can't see the sprinklers themselves, but they're inside, and it just suddenly starts raining indoors. And it took me back to that very first movie for our very first alien kill where it was raining indoors. And we were even like, how is that possible? Like, what is happening? And I thought it was fun that they almost created an excuse to show you what it could mean if it's raining inside, like what that even what that means. So they have those cold guns that they're using, which I think is fun that it's like, the opposite of fire. We got to do something different.
Oh yeah.
But we know, from Alien Resurrection that aliens don't like cold. Cold actually repels them. And so it's fun that they brought back, now they're using the cryo guns. It's fun that we can see, it's kind of already established in lore that aliens hate the cold. And so for them to be using that effectively, I thought was a big call out to the fourth movie.
Good catch, honestly.
How do you feel about? Because I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth, so I want to hear your guys' thoughts. How do you feel about the legacy quotes in this movie?
What do you mean?
So I love
yes.
that.
Get away from her.
I hate that. I hated that so much.
Okay.
I liked it in the theaters. I will be completely when I saw it in theaters, I was like, yeah. And then I rewatched Aliens, and I was like, he said it so much better. And so when I rewatched when I watched Romulus, hot on the heels of Aliens, I was like, I didn't need that actually. I don't think it makes a ton of sense that Andy would say that, other than to call back, and it just yeah. I liked it the first time. I did not like it the second time. But when Rook says, I can't lie to you about your chances, but you have my sympathies, a direct quote from Ash, the same model android as himself, in the same context, I loved it.
Well, it makes sense. It's the same model. It's how he thinks.
Right?
Yeah.
So for me, I loved that part. But I could, so like I said, both sides of my mouth. I liked how it was executed at one point. I did not like how it was executed at another.
Yeah, Andy's delivery just was a bit off, but
I will admit that it does not make sense for him to say that at all.
Yeah. Now,
it does not add up.
I think if he had just said "get away from her" and let it hang, I'd have been totally cool with it.
Yeah, because it's almost a reference in the absence, right?
Yes.
Everyone's gonna be like, "Huh? Are you gonna?" Huh? Like, yeah, I agree. It almost would have been better if they didn't have that in there.
It's like jazz. It's about the notes that aren't played at that point, and
yes, precisely.
But ultimately, such a small gripe. That's something else we should do. Is we should cover the gripes. These are all super nitpicky, and I'm really actually excited, Kyle, that you mentioned the face huggers seem to have a black design on the legs. Yeah. I missed that, but a common complaint I hear is that Navarro's chest burster developed so quickly. Now, I think that it is a problem within the Alien franchise that the speed at which a chest burster comes out is simply the speed at which the plot demands it. Because if you look at the first movie as your baseline, and then you look at the third movie, it's like, well, maybe it's because it's a queen that she could go through the whole movie without being chest burst. And then Navarro chest bursts in 10 minutes? It seems inconsistent, but yeah. I actually don't have a problem with it because I like putting puzzles together from what has been unsaid and what we can just kind of assume. I like playing detective. And so if these facehuggers have a slightly different black design on the legs, and we know that the black goo is present on the ship, and we know that they're trying to play God and reverse engineer to get this black goo, these could be a slightly varied breed of facehugger, and thus this could be a slightly varied breed of xenomorph, which could even be reflected in the translucent skin. And so for me, I don't have a problem with it. I think that in 1, you have a basic drone. In 3, you have a gestating queen. And then in this one, you have this weird new black goo xenomorph. And so it is a problem in that the series is just inconsistent, and it is ultimately, without question to me, they burst when the plot demands it.
Yes.
But I can justify all 3 of them. And so...
Well, and if we learned anything, it's that the xenomorph itself isn't actually a naturally occurring species, but a byproduct of the black goo. So ultimately, it's safe to even assume that maybe every xenomorph has its own variables and differences just because of how that black goo was used in developing the creature itself.
That's true. And also in Alien Covenant, I think they burst pretty quick as well.
Yeah.
And those are protomorphs, so it is slightly different. But I think it. Yeah, I think it is totally fine that they burst when the plot demands it, because the variance in what these things are is so vast.
Yeah, this is a random observation, but I thought having acid float around in zero gravity was absolutely freaking genius.
Oh
because
my
like
gosh,
we've
incredible.
never had a zero gravity like obstacle course scene kind of like that, you know? It was like it slightly reminded me of when they had to swim underwater, except this was like so much cooler. To have to like avoid acid in zero gravity is nuts. And I liked that, you know, they in every movie they've said, well, hey, you can't shoot them because the acid will melt through the ground and
Hmm.
it'll, you know, destroy the ship. And we've gotten away with a lot of shooting and a lot of alien killing where that hasn't necessarily happened. But in this one, as soon as that gravity turns back on, instantly the ship's blown open.
Yeah.
Like that is the real consequence of having acid on a ship is that it actually will destroy the whole thing within moments, and it does. From that moment on, like the ship is falling apart, and I love that it honored that. We didn't just get away with some free acid falling. Like, nope, the first time it happened, everything went to shit.
It was so good. And also I loved the elevator sequence, like that whole thing, just like the return, this moment where you're like, she's like if Rey Skywalker was a well-written character, but also she's a callback to Ripley, all in the same time, and that it like she thinks her own way. She's unique. She's powerful. She earns this like status of like competency, and you see the change in like she's just supposed to be a bystander, but she grows into this character. Everything about that entire sequence is perfect. The way that her and Andy's relationship, like they both reach their point of like perfect character development in symphony, and it just and they ascend up the elevator and they do battle with the xenomorphs. It's absolute writing perfection. It's so good. I loved it in the theater. I loved it on the rewatch. It's fantastic, and it's paced perfectly to go into our fourth act without it feeling like it's needless and too much. I think it's the best fourth act in the entire series, actually. I get a little tired when I watch Alien and Aliens, and I'm like, okay, it's cool. We're going to have the fight with the forklift and the queen. It's iconic. But, like, I just went through a movie. I've been through my 3 acts. I don't need this. And I feel the same way about the fourth act in Alien. It's like, oh, this is the first time it happened. It's epic. It's awesome. It was unexpected. The first time, it scared me to pieces. I was, like, 13, so, you know, I was not ready for it. But in this one, I know it's coming. I'm ready for it, and I'm excited for it.
So I completely agree with everything you said about like progression of her character as she goes through the movie. Excellently done. But I just have to talk about like that elevator scene you were just talking about. It really bothers me. The scene where the xenomorph catches her with its tail, because I'm like, I feel like any third-rate character would have just been impaled, not caught.
No,
but
that's
I
valid.
get she has plot. I get she has plot armor, but outside of that, that doesn't take away from her character. She was very well done for this movie.
The argument is that they think there was a chest, or there's supposed to be a face hugger nearby, and so the idea is like, I'm gonna catch you, and we're gonna let you get face hugged, and that's like you're gonna be in prime condition to be face hugged. I don't need to hurt you because I don't need to take you anywhere. Is the rationale? It feels a little plot armory to me now that you say it. That like I agree, if that had been any of the other characters in the movie, she'd have a giant hole in her chest. No doubt. But it's okay. It's good that we have at least one nitpick that we point out and that I don't justify away. So if we could come up with one of those, that'd be great. How about your mom's nitpick? I think that one's valid.
Oh yeah. So, as I was saying earlier, we watched this one with my mom, and there's that scene that we were talking about earlier where the lander hits the station, and we said, you know, it's enough to throw it off kilter to change the trajectory by like 30 hours or something ridiculous.
Yeah,
like
just
that.
from the ship running into it, it's like, oh, the trajectory's totally changed. Yeah.
Yeah, one ship, and compare that to the size of the whole station, right? So how come when the station makes contact with the rings, it just continues to go into the rings and doesn't move off kilter? Like, these rocks should be heavier than the lander. Like, why is it not throwing it off kilter?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's a really minor nitpick. But
and now we can't be accused of only glazing the movie. We did address its faults. Completely unbiased.
And it's like, ultimately, it did seem like the ship was, that's interesting, because it almost seemed like it was smaller pieces that were more like eradicating it, you know, disintegrating it as it went. So if anything, shouldn't it have just like rolled a little more by your standards? Like, it just almost, maybe it should have been destroyed faster because the physics of it hitting should have rolled it towards the rings. But ultimately, I have no idea either. It looked beautiful though.
It looked so
It
good.
did. It did.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that shot at the end where she's hanging out of the lander,
Yes.
and you can see it burning in the distance into the ring, and it's still going. I'm like, oh, that's chef's kiss right there.
Exactly. Okay, well, unless there's any other like main thoughts for this one, we've watched every single Alien movie now, and I want to know what your final lineup is of favorite to least favorite in this franchise.
Hold on. This is the final one. Least favorite to favorite.
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
Do we all want to be? We all want to be. All right, I'll go first. We all want to be the last one, so.
I'm happy to go first. I'm just one who asked the question, so it's.
I'll fall on the sword. It's fine. For me, Alien 3 is going to take the final. It's going to take the heel spot. Alien Resurrection. I've gone back and forth on these. They're basically the same. We're going to say Covenant, then Prometheus, but that's going to change in like 7 minutes, and then again in another 7 minutes, so whatever. And now is the part that gets tricky. I'm going to go Alien at 3, Aliens at 2, and I'm going to put Romulus at 1. I didn't know where I was going to put it until we had this conversation, and I'm more excited about this movie than I was to talk about either of those movies. I think for me, it is the best Alien movie. It was the best movie going experience I've had in forever. I think it's the best the series has ever been, and it holds up both in the way it pays homage and uses practical effects and feels like the older movies and still has those cool, big, epic shots while being terrifying in a modern sense. I think it does everything you want an Alien movie to do, and it does it in a way that holds up to today's standards. It's perfect.
Wow.
I can't be mad with that take, honestly. I can't.
Somebody will, I'm sure, but...
Well, okay. I'll go next. I'm keeping a little list here so I can see who says what. I'm gonna agree with you that 3 is at the bottom. But I'm going to I'm not gonna agree with you. I think Covenant's at the bottom. I think Covenant is worst. Then I'm going to say 3. Then I'm gonna say Prometheus. Then okay, Alien Resurrection is next. Then Aliens, Alien, and I'm putting Romulus on top as well. I just think, for the time, I know these movies are revolutionary, but in the modern era, Romulus is really capturing the whole spirit of what this franchise is supposed to be about, what it's supposed to stand for, what it's saying, and how scary it's supposed to be. And so, in any of those old movies, there's a few groaner moments. And in Romulus, you are not groaning. You are so fucking scared. And so I think Romulus is the perfect modern day adaptation. And I put that on top as well.
Okay.
Closely followed, yeah. Yeah, by Alien 1, Aliens, Resurrection, and the rest.
It's a tough one to knock off, man. Starting from the bottom, I've got Resurrection, Prometheus, 3, Covenant. Now moving into the top 3. This one was hard, but I've got Alien, Aliens.
Let's go!
I have to put Romulus. I just can't.
Whoa!
I actually rewatched Aliens because I was like, I gotta be sure about
Right.
this decision, and I still couldn't. I'm like, you know what? It's going there. It's going there.
I did not see that coming. I thought for sure at least one of us would, quote, do the right thing. I love that no one did.
That's so. I mean, it's interesting that not only do we all agree on Romulus being the best, but we have the same top 3. And then from there, it spirals out of control. But it's interesting that we can all agree upon the top 3 being 1, 2, and Romulus without a doubt.
Yeah, no question. Man, that's awesome. All right, well, Alien Earth is coming up. This is probably going to come out like Tuesday. So Alien Earth is coming out tonight. We are all super excited to watch that double episode. Hopefully we should be dropping the episode on Wednesday, late night, probably Thursday morning, and stay tuned and let us know what your final ranking of all these movies are in the comments, and gear up to watch this series with us. I want to hear you guys' thoughts. I want this to be something that the Top Pod family is able to engage in together. I'm so excited. I hope you guys come along for the ride. And until next time, peace.